You're standing over a fresh kill. The animal stopped breathing minutes ago, and already something else has started. In warm conditions, bacteria on raw meat can double their numbers every 20 minutes. The clock on your dinner started running before you even finished field dressing it. No refrigerator, no ice machine in the next room. Just you, the carcass, and a countdown you can't see, hear, or stop with your bare hands. Right now, your fridge is quietly running that math for you. You buy meat on a Tuesday and eat it on Sunday without a second thought. 5 days of biological time travel, solved by a machine humming in the corner of your kitchen. For almost all of human history, that machine didn't exist. Neither did the plastic wrap, the cooler, or the delivery truck keeping the cold chain unbroken the whole way there. So how did people with no electricity, no refrigeration, and sometimes no fire at all turn a kill that started rotting within hours into food that could feed a family for weeks? Start with fire, because fire is older than most people assume. In 2004, archaeologist Nama Goran Inbar and her team examined burned flint and charred wood at a site called Gesher Benot Yaakov in modern-day Israel. What they found wasn't a lucky spark. It was evidence of repeated, controlled fire use stretching back roughly 790,000 years. Fire kept going on purpose, meal after meal. That mattered for more than warmth. Smoke and steady low heat pull moisture out of muscle tissue, and moisture is exactly what bacteria need to multiply. Dry the meat and coat it in smoke, and you've built an environment bacteria can't survive in. A fire meant for cooking dinner had quietly become a preservation machine, 790,000 years before anyone had a word for preservative. So fire solved part of the problem. But fire needs fuel, and not every landscape on Earth hands you enough wood to keep a flame going through an entire winter. Salt solved the fuel problem. Around 6050 BCE, nearly 8,000 years ago, archaeologist Olivier Weller and his team excavated a site called Poiana Slatinei in present-day Romania and uncovered some of the earliest confirmed evidence of organized salt production. Broken pottery, known as briquetage, had been used again and again to boil brine down into solid salt, at a scale far beyond household seasoning. Rub that salt onto raw meat and something simple happens. Osmosis pulls water out of the tissue and out of any bacteria trying to live in it, faster than they can reproduce. It isn't flavor doing the work. It's chemistry, running the same job a freezer runs today, just slower, and with no electricity anywhere near it. Everyone assumes salt mattered because of taste. It didn't, not at first. A single handful could stretch a 2-day window into a 2-month one, which is exactly why, for most of human history, salt wasn't sitting in a shaker on the table. It was closer to money. Fire and salt both assumed you had something to spare trees to burn, or trade routes bringing salt in from somewhere else. So what did people do in places with neither? High in the Andes, above 4,000 meters, wood is scarce, and salt has to be hauled in from the coast. In the 1970s, archaeologist Craig Morris spent years excavating Inca storehouses at a site called Huánuco Pampa in present-day Peru, documenting hundreds of stone colca built to hold food through the region's brutal nightly freeze. That freeze wasn't just weather to survive, it was the technology. Meat set out overnight froze solid in the thin, cold air, then thawed and dried under intense daytime sun over and over, night after night, until nearly all the water was gone. What remained, known as charqui, could keep for years instead of weeks, without a single flame or grain of salt involved. Altitude did the work in the Andes. But what about places with no mountains at all, just flat, frozen ground stretching for 1,000 miles in every direction? In Siberia, the ground itself became the freezer. In 2004, archaeologist Vladimir Petulko published findings from the Yana rhinoceros horn site, a settlement dated to roughly 27,000 years ago and occupied for over 2,000 years. Butchered mammoth and horse bones there had been cut, stacked, and clearly set aside, not eaten immediately, not discarded. The likely explanation is pits dug down into permafrost, ground that stays frozen year-round no matter what's happening on the surface. No fuel needed, no trading for salt, no fire to babysit. Just a hole in the ground, doing, for free, what a chest freezer does for you now. Everyone assumes freezing food is a modern invention, something that arrived with electricity in the last couple of centuries. It didn't. People in Siberia were using the ground as a freezer more than 27,000 years before the first Frigidaire. So which method actually worked: fire, salt, altitude, or permafrost? All of them. And none of them alone. Every solution depended on the exact landscape a person happened to be standing on, and every single one demanded more hands than one person had. Smoking a carcass before it turned meant someone tending the fire while someone else butchered. Boiling brine into salt meant someone gathering fuel while someone else hauled water for hours. Even a permafrost pit had to be dug fast before the meat sitting outside it started to turn. The real preservation technology was never the smoke, or the crystal, or the ice. It was a group of people choosing to work in parallel, at the exact moment the smell of blood should have scattered them apart instead. Go back to that kill you're standing over. The clock is still running bacteria, doubling every 20 minutes, exactly the same as it did 790,000 years ago at Gesher Benot Yaakov. Except now you know that whoever stood over a carcass like this, anywhere on Earth, needed other hands close by. Hands to feed the fire, hands to boil the brine, hands to carry meat up to where the cold could finish the job. What kept meat from spoiling was never really the smoke, or the salt, or the frozen ground. It was the people standing around it, refusing to let a good kill go to waste. And the freezer humming quietly in your kitchen right now does, completely alone, what it once took an entire group of people, standing together in the cold, to pull off Sanfers. You're standing over a fresh kill, and a countdown has already started, bacteria doubling every 20 minutes, with no refrigerator anywhere in sight. This video traces 4 real ways ancient and pre-industrial people beat that clock, from the earliest controlled fires on record to a settlement dug into Siberian permafrost 27,000 years ago.